Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Keep Right On podcast, where I, Alex Dicken, am joined by a man who played 54 times for Birmingham City. Signed from Gillingham in 2021, he spent 2 seasons in the first team and he's best known for his wicked deliveries from out wide. Jordan Graham, welcome and thanks for coming on to chat with us. How are you?
I'm really well, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Jordan, so if we jump straight into it, you left Blues around this time last year. You went to Leyton Orient, just in the league below Blues in League One. Well, the League Blues are now actually in. Your first season was a little bit disrupted by injury. Can you tell us what went on and how your rehab is going, please, mate?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of had a strange off season, really, to what I normally would have had, because I haven't really had a year where I haven't been at a club. So it was kind of weird for me because obviously I left Birmingham and yeah, it was like a waiting game on waiting for the right club and who I was going to sign for. And then I ended up meeting the manager at Orient and his staff, and it was a really good vibe. And I ended up signing. And because I didn't really have much of a pre-season, I signed, I think it was 3 days before the start of the season. So because I didn't have a pre-season, I got thrown straight in on the first game, which was away at Charlton. I remember it vividly, actually. And I was lacking a lot of match sharpness, which is probably why it haunts me still to this day. And that was the case with the first few games, to be honest. I was struggling fitness-wise. But I think maybe 4 or 5 games in, I got my fitness levels up. And I started to start the games. And I think just before I got injured, I think the day I got injured, which was against Burton away, I was on, I think, 5 assists or something in the league. So I was flying. I was doing really, really well, and I felt really good. And yeah, so it kind of came to a sudden stop, which was a bit of a shame. But it's been a difficult year. But looking back, I started really well, and I'm excited for next season, to be honest. So there's light at the end of the tunnel as we speak right now. So it's all good.
I know you've had knee injuries before, haven't you? But this one's a little bit different, isn't it? It's the patella, which is the kneecap, isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, it's the patella tendon. Yeah, so I did my ACL when I was at Wolves in 2016, and it's on the same knee, but it's kind of a rare injury. Not many players do it. Which you're right, Alex. Yeah, it's the patella tendon which I snapped, and I had a full reconstruction. Yeah, so bit of a nasty one, to be honest, especially on top of the same knee that I did when I was at Wolves. So not ideal, but occupational hazard.
Well, I guess all players hate being injured, but I suppose because you've been there before and you've had that kind of long recovery, it might help a little bit.
Definitely, no, for sure. I've told a lot of my friends this as well. That I've been through. It's a different injury, but it's obviously it's a similar time frame and it's a similar-ish rehab. So I've done it before, and I remember speaking to Christian Bielik, who's obviously at Birmingham now, who did 2 ACLs, and I remember when I think it was in my. I'm not sure when it was actually, but maybe it was it my second season? Was Christian been there 2 years or not? Yeah, I think we were at West Hills anyway, and I was speaking to him when he was telling me about his rehab from his second ACL when he was at Derby, and I think he told me it was through COVID, and he was in his garden having to do the sessions and stuff, and I thought, you know what, I'm not sure I could cope with another 9 to 12 month injury. I really hope that never happens to me. And I thought, what a mental warrior Christian is, which I know he is anyway. But I thought, like, hopefully the one that I've had that's all it's going to be. And then, unfortunately, yeah, my world came crashing down at Burton away. And the next day I got hit with the news that it was going to be a year injury. And I remember actually in my head thinking on the way back, Christian's got my conversation with Christian and that, and obviously Gaz has done a couple as well. So yeah, I know it can happen and it's very unfortunate and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. And to be honest, Alex, I don't think anyone's done their ACL and then patella tendon. I think the ones that have done their ACL have re-ruptured their ACL. So this is what I was a little bit confused about. I didn't really have anyone to lean on because it wasn't a double ACL. It was one and then a patella. So there isn't anyone for me to look up to or research. No one's really returned to play from this sequence of injuries. So it's been difficult. I've soul searched a lot. It's been some hard, dark days, but I think we're nearly there. So all is well.
Yeah, I think Pedro Neto at Wolves did the kneecap, but I don't think he'd done the ACL before. So yeah. Whereabouts are you on the recovery timeline?
I am I think I'm jogging for the first time on the treadmill on Tuesday, which is, I don't know, I think it's the 29th. And then I've got a session on Tuesday on the treadmill, a session on Friday on the treadmill, and then I should be outside. And then I've got a month of being outside, running with the ball, crossing again, dribbling, just ball-based stuff, sprinting, and then hopefully, after 4 weeks of that, I'm back in. I think we report back at the start of July for pre-season. So the aim is to be back involved then. If I'm a little bit later than that, I don't think it's too detrimental because I've got hopefully the whole of pre-season to play with. So it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all. But the plan is to be back for the start of pre-season, which I can't contain the smile off my face about.
Brilliant. That'd be great to see you back. Rewind to the summer of 2021 when you signed for Blues. You just had quite a strong season with Gillingham and you in League One.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the numbers. I know you all love numbers. 12 goals, 6 assists. Under Steve Evans, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
What was it like working under him? Because he's a bit eccentric, a bit kind of bit of a one-off in football. What was it like working under him for a season?
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, he is a bit of a one-off. Yeah. For me, he was really good. I think some players in the past maybe have struggled under Steve or working with Steve. I can see why, but with me, he was brilliant. He gave me the freedom to go and play, do what I wanted to do, and then we had there was 3-4 of us at the time at Gillingham. A boy called Carl Dempsey, who's at Bolton now, Verdane, Oliver, who's just left Stevenage, and Conor Ogilvie, who's just got promoted from League One to the Championship with Portsmouth. And we kind of played every game. And a boy called Jack Bonham, who's at Stoke, we played every game really. And he just gave us the freedom to go out and enjoy football. And we didn't necessarily play the way that I probably wanted to play, because I prefer to play football with the ball on the floor. And I think we were very direct, but I got a lot of the ball that season. I played a lot of games. I was injury free, and my numbers were good. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it was obviously for a difficult time because it was a COVID season. So through a time that was very difficult for everyone, I actually had a really good season. So yeah, bittersweet that year was. And then obviously I got the move to Birmingham off the back of that, which was incredible for me, to be honest, because obviously Blues is a huge club. I grew up with a lot of friends that supported Birmingham, and it was moving back to the Midlands, which I'd been away for a year, living down in Kent. So yeah, it was everything about that was actually a really good period of my life.
I was going to say, you're a local lad, so it makes perfect sense to come back to the Midlands. How did the move to Blues all come about?
It came about because Craig, who's the technical director of Birmingham, called my agent and said, "Look, Jordan's had a really good season. We've been monitoring for the last, few months. I think since January, we've been keeping a close eye on him, and his stats are really good, and he's performed really well." And at the time, Lee was the manager. Lee Bowyer was the manager, and Lee wasn't the manager. Lee had just signed his summer year. 5, 7 or 8 games to go, and I played against Lee's Charlton team, I think, that season in the home game for Gillingham, and I had a really good game. So obviously Lee at the time knew who I was, and then I went and met Lee, and we had a good conversation about how we wanted to play moving forward and what my role would be, which actually changed once I signed. But yeah, no, I think that's how it came about, and it was all really, to be honest, I don't look back at my time with Birmingham with any negativity at all. It was actually really, really enjoyable. The obvious elephant in the room is that I didn't play as a winger for any of my games while I was there, which even looking back now is quite strange, really, because it's kind of frustrating because obviously since I left, the team has literally played with wingers the whole time. So sometimes you can't make it up in football, but yeah, no, that's how it came about, and the move was really enjoyable as a whole.
That was something I wanted to come on to, because I remember I got to go from Brian covering Blues towards the end of that second season. But one of the things that I'd spoken to Brian about was your position, and you literally we didn't think you'd played as a winger in your entire time, because it was mostly a 3-5-2 system with wing backs. And I remember actually towards the end of the second season, when John Eustace actually switched to a 4-2-3-1, you went out the team. But when he actually played a 3-5-2 on the final day, you came back into the team as a wing back.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely bizarre.
Bizarre. Yeah, at least I don't think there was a single game. I actually spoke to my friend about it when I left Birmingham, and I said, I don't think there was an actual single game where I started as a winger, which is kind of scary, really, because I was there for 2 full seasons, and I signed as a winger. I remember the conversation with Lee when I signed, which was about getting the ball out wide, because I just had a really good season out wide for Gillingham, get the ball out wide and get deliveries in the box. And I remember saying to me that Duke, a friend who's obviously brilliant in the air, one of the best in the league, one of the best I've ever played with in the air. So yeah, just get the balls in the bottom, like feed him and he'll score. And yeah, I was really excited about it. And then I ended up not starting. I remember really well actually. I wasn't involved at all at the start of the season, and I was thinking this is kind of crazy. Like, have I just signed and I'm not involved? And then I ended up making my debut against Huddersfield away, I think it was, and played as a wing back. And then the rest was history. Just wing back. Which, to be honest, was all right because I got a fair amount of ball and I had some good assists in there. And I remember having some really good games. And it is what it is. And I've matured as a person and a player. I'm different to who I was when I was at Wolves, and yeah, it kind of is what it is. I understand football for what it is, but it's kind of crazy how I came down to Orient, and then within I don't know the first 7, 8 games of me being fit, I had 4 or 5 assists, and the way I viewed football was differently. I was playing high and wide. I was having loads of 1v1s. I wasn't after worrying about tracking my man at the back post. So yeah, it was a lot more enjoyable playing in my actual position down here before I got injured, but. Like I said, I love my time at Blues.
I remember actually reading an interview you gave. I think it was The Athletic, when you were talking about your time at Wolves and how when they went to switch to a back three and play with wing backs, you didn't quite want to do it then. No. Obviously, the irony is that you've then gone to Blues, end up playing as a wing back. If you look at the spell at Blues, because you didn't play as a winger, do you feel like you were able to get you kind of? Do you feel like we saw the real Jordan Graham at St Andrews?
No, not at all. No, not at all. That's the one thing that does just shame me a little bit is that, Blues is a massive club and it's a massive fan base, and you get loads of stuff on social media, messages, and loads of people notice you in the streets around Birmingham and the Midlands. And, towards the back end of my time at Birmingham, I got a lot of... The fans were amazing with me, but towards the back end of it, I got a little bit of jip, and I almost wanted to say, like, I ain't even playing in my position. Like, it's almost like taking... It's not, but it's almost like taking a number 10 and asking them to play as a sitter. Like, it's completely different. So what I'd done my whole life and my career, I was having to focus so much on defending and being at the back post, and Birmingham were not a possession-based team for the 2 years there, so a lot of the games were transitional. So I was actually almost defending 1v1 more than I was attacking 1v1, which I'd never known. That wasn't my career, and it definitely wasn't my career at Gillingham. It was almost the complete opposite. So yeah, I definitely don't think the Blues fans saw the best of me. I wanted to be given a role where I could just have loads of 1v1 attacking duels going forward and beat fullbacks and assist for fun. But, towards the back end of it, especially under John, I wasn't playing as many games as I wanted to play. And then when I did play, obviously I wasn't playing in my natural position and I lacked a little bit of confidence. So my delivery and my end product wasn't as good. And it can have it's like a snowball effect when it all adds up in the end. And it's a little bit frustrating, but like I said, I met some great people. The fans were amazing with me. I've got not a bad word to say about Birmingham. I absolutely love my time there. It's just a shame I didn't get to really fully play where I wanted to play and show the fans everything that I could do.
I want to, before we come on to what happened last summer when you left the club, I wanted to speak about your 2 seasons. Your first one under Lee Bowyer. What are your main reflections? It felt like a season where the team started fairly strongly, across the season, kind of wrapped up safely pretty early, and then obviously dropped off at the end. I think there's one win in the final 10. What are your reflections on that first season?
Do you know what, Alex? I don't remember too much in terms of. I just remember not playing at the start, and I remember signing, and it was really weird because Lee's assistant at the time for that season was a guy called Mark Kennedy.
Yeah.
Was actually a coach with me at Wolves. Once I'd left the first team, I had some issues with Nuno, and I left. And Sparky ended up coaching me at Wolves, and he was absolutely amazing with me. Like, what a guy, by the way. Honestly, what a guy. And I remember, like, I'd signed, and I wasn't playing. I wasn't even getting the squads, and I was thinking, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, I just signed for the club, and now I'm thinking about going out on loan in January because I wasn't playing. So it's really weird. And I remember Mark saying to me, like, just keep your head, like, you'll get your chance eventually. So yeah, so the start of the season, I almost said the first quarter of the season, that season, I don't really remember. I've blanked out my memory because it was that unenjoyable and that weird. And then I came into the team against, I think it was Huddersfield away, and I made my debut, and I actually had a really good game. And then I think my next game was Swansea at home, and I had a really good game. I think I got man of the match in that game. And then I was kind of in the team then for a little period of time. And then I ended up having a little niggle. I came out of the team and then came back in the team. And I just remember playing, I think it was maybe 26, 27 games that season in all competitions. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I think if we could go back to 2-3 days before the Huddersfield game that season and say you're going to have a really successful year here or enjoyable year, I would have said you're crazy, because I couldn't see how it was going to happen. But I ended up really I think I enjoyed my first season probably a lot more than my second season, which is crazy, because in the pre-season in Portugal with John and Matt, the way the club was going with the new staff, I had a really good pre-season and I really enjoyed Portugal. And I thought, you know what, this could be my year here. And I ended up not really playing anywhere near as much as I did in the league, which is kind of crazy. So yeah.
Was I remember those 2 years, probably there was the backdrop of the whole kind of ownership situation, where, you know, obviously the off-field issues, the protests, there was at some games as well. Did that ever seep through to the playing squad? Because it must have been difficult to ignore.
It's a good question. So for me, I mean, I knew that there was. I'd known that there was Birmingham were in a kind of sticky financial situation for quite a while, because from the previous owners that were from, I think it was Hong Kong, was it?
Yeah.
There was news that, like, you know, that it had been a bit of a mess for a little while. So, you know, the lads that were there at the time had kind of informed me that the club hadn't been really too stable. So I can't say anything took me by surprise, and I can't say that it was. I think it kind of was what it was with Blues for quite a while. I think people have kind of accepted. I mean, I know a lot of. When I signed for Birmingham, there was a lot of people that I'd known and grew up with in my life that were like, "Oh, Birmingham's in a bit of a mess, or financially, or whatever." It was quite well known that Birmingham wasn't really stable since that whole mess occurred. So I think a lot of the players that were there when I signed had been there under that previous ownership. So it didn't take me by surprise, no. And I think the club did really well to actually sustain where they were for such a long period of time, to be honest. And now, the future is really bright. I mean, you look at it now, you look at the situation now, I think this is where Birmingham City fans and the club had longed to be in for such a long period, not with the relegation, but with financial stability and the excitement and the future investment of the owners. I think Blues are now, ironically, even though they've gone down, are actually in a really good place to move forward now. I think now there's a real chance for the club to reset, and, you know, I think that the future is bright, genuinely.
Yeah, it's remarkable after years of, you know, circling the plug hole in the Championship under bad owners. You know, they get the good owners that are willing to invest, and that's the season then going down.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the after the second season, obviously your contract was up after 2 years. Was there ever any chance that you were going to stay, or was it kind of the writing on the wall, given that you played not that much towards the end of the season?
No, there was a big chance I was going to stay. Actually, it was a bit of a shame, to be honest, how it all came to an end. Nothing was really too well communicated, but it didn't surprise me, to be fair, given the way that the club was. There was a lot of, you know, like I said earlier, the club wasn't really too stable. There was a lot of noise around ownership and takeovers and this and that. And I remember there was potential owners coming on the radio and arguing with people on the radio. It was a bit of a mess, really. So I can't say it took me by surprise. But yeah, it was a bit frustrating because I had been told that I'd be able to stay. The club wanted me to stay for another year, and then it kind of transpired to a bit of chaos, really, in the end. And but that's football, you know. It didn't catch me off guard. It is what it is. You know, I was prepared for all outcomes. I'd have loved to have stayed, and a bit of a shame, really, because I think if I had stayed, I would have probably got the chance to have played in my actual position. So yeah, it was frustrating the last season, especially being injured as well. Once I got injured, because, you know, that was for the majority of the season. I was watching Blues a lot on television and on the TV, and I was thinking, if I was there, I'd have actually probably had a chance to play in my actual position. So that was a little bit of a shame. But yeah, you know, I've supported the boys from afar, and obviously, like I said, I've got a lot of friends there. You know, still in touch with a lot of the players there. Some that have left now, some that are still there. And, you know, I wouldn't wish this upon anyone, let alone some people that I was really close with. But like I said, I think it's a really good chance for the club now to to reset. I think this is needed. Like you said earlier, Alex, I think it's kind of crazy. Sometimes you can stay in the league for so long and not actually feel like you're going anywhere. Whereas now they've actually been relegated. I think now is probably the first time in a long time that Blues fans and maybe the players are probably thinking there's a chance now that we can really reset and hit the ground running. So we'll see what happens in the future.
It's quite clear you've obviously watched a lot of the team last season, especially when you were injured, and you will be, well briefed on kind of what's been going on at the club. I think if you include all their interims last season, it was 6 managers. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Kept me busy for sure. What was your take on it from afar?
Chaos, really. Chaos, yeah. So I was really surprised when John got sacked because that was, obviously. I was really surprised. It was surprising due to the position that the team were in. They were 6th, I think, in the championship at the time. I think that was a little bit surprising because we were the club was in the playoffs, and I was thinking, well, it's a little bit strange to sack a manager, but the club's in the playoffs. But I kind of got the whole thing with the new owners and wanting to play their own type of football and this new type of football and this progressive possession-based football, which we weren't playing under John Eustace. So I kind of got that with that, and then obviously Wayne came in and that didn't go to plan at all. And then all of a sudden you're in, I don't know, December, January, and it's like, wow, look at where we were to where we are now. And then, everyone starts, the comments kind of start coming in then like, oh, Blues is a mess. But people weren't really saying Blues were a mess when Blues were 6th because we were doing really well and it was a chance that we could get promoted. And then you look at some of the decisions that were made and it's like, oh, no, what's going on here? So I remember feeling really bad, to be honest, for the boys and for the club, for the fans, because I don't think anyone deserved that. And you couldn't call it. Obviously, it didn't go to plan. And then it was, the rest was, from January onwards, was a bit crazy, really, with obviously the manager getting appointed and then falling ill, someone else coming in. And yeah, I remember when Gary Rowett got appointed, and I remember some of the fans on social media saying stuff like, it feels almost like we've gone backwards because he was here so many years ago. And how could we go from where we were in September, October till now? How could we be in this position? So yeah, I think the Blues fans have really been put through some difficult times, and obviously with the season ending how it did, just added to that. But like I said, I think there's some positivity now moving forward for the first time in quite a long time.
Yeah, I think there is. I agree with you on that, and it's crazy considering that's come after even despite relegation. League One, you spent the last season in it. You obviously had the time at Gillingham as well. What can Blues expect next season, Jordan?
No, it's tough. It's tough. Really tough, difficult league. But obviously Birmingham's a massive club and they've got good and really big investment now. And it seems like I said, it seems like the club's in a good place. So I remember actually speaking to my manager on the last day of the season, Richie Wellens, who's a wicked gaffer, really talented, brilliant, knows his football inside out, and he's a really good up-and-coming manager actually. And I remember in the dressing room at the last home game of the season, I think it was Fleetwood that we played. And I remember us speaking about Birmingham. He said to me, "What about Blues?" I said, "Yeah, it's crazy." I said, "Going into the last game of the season, we didn't know what was going to happen." And I said, "It'll be carnage if Birmingham get relegated." He said, "Yeah." He said, I remember him saying to me vividly, "It's the last thing we want, because Birmingham coming down with the investment they've got now and the stature of the club, they really should be going back up. Whereas you look at like a Huddersfield or a Sheffield Wednesday, there's a chance they might get caught down here. Whereas us at Orient, we're trying to get promoted." So I remember him saying to me like, Blues coming down, it's a massive club with really good investment and a big future ahead of them. So really, that's not the type of team that we want to come down, because we want to try and get automatic promotion. And the more bigger teams that come down, the less likely that's going to be for us. And it stuck with me. And I thought, you know what, Blues are in a really good place moving forward. I think they've got really good investment. They've got a wicked fan base. They've got a big potential in the next 5 to 10 years. So for me, ideally now, it's going to be difficult playing against Blues because I think Blues are going to be really good next year, and there's a lot of nostalgia there. But I'm looking forward to it anyway because I've got some good friends there, so we'll see what happens.
What will you do if you score at St Andrews?
I won't want to celebrate because the fans showed me so much love, but there was a couple towards the end of it that gave me gyps, so I might have to point them out in the crowd and do a little something. But we'll see. I need to score first. It's unlikely. We'll see.
Don't do it, Jordan. Thank you very much, Jordan. You've been a fantastic guest. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Please make sure you like, subscribe on Spotify and your other podcast platforms, and obviously on YouTube as well. Really appreciate you guys listening, and thank you again, Jordan, for coming to join us tonight. And a big keep right on to everyone listening at home.
Appreciate it, Alex. Thank you for having me on, mate.